In this first example, I'm going to show you how to find the equation of the line using 2 points. First thing we have to do is use the slope equation, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The first thing we have to do is label these 2 points so that we know where to substitute values into this formula so that we can find the slope. After we find the slope, we're going to use one of these 2 points to solve the equation of the line. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and label negative 2 and 2 as x1 and y1. And then 2 and 6 I will label x2 and y2. It's not very necessary to label these as x1, y1, x2, y2, but it helps a lot, especially if you're just doing this for the first time. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue so that we can substitute in these values so that we can solve the slope. Now remember, when you're substituting in for y2, y1, x2, or x1, you want to use parentheses just as any other substitution would do. So right here I see that y2 is 6, and I'm subtracting y1, which is 2, and I'm putting that over x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is negative 2. Notice how important it is to put everything in parentheses. As this 2 is negative, we're going to get a sign change down here. A negative and a negative give you a positive when they're consecutive signs. In other words, this, we can imagine there's a 1 here, or we can just say if we're subtracting a negative, it becomes positive, which is basic arithmetic. To learn more about that, you can go to the basic arithmetic videos. Now here we have 6 take away 2 over 2 plus 2 because of the sign change here. As we continue, we'll see that we'll get 4 over 4, which is just 1. So here we can go and re-illustrate the slope value, which is m equals 1. Now that we have the slope, we have to pick one of these 2 sets of points so that we can find the equation of the line. I'm going to simply pick x1 and y1 because it's the first set, and you can use any of the 2. So why not use the 1s? Remember, in either case, if you use any set of the 2 points, you should get the same answer. Alright? Now let's continue. The formula for the equation of the line in slope-intercept form, or point-slope form, is either y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, or y equals mx plus b. The difference between these 2 formulas is simple. In this formula, you simply have to plug in the slope and the x1 and the y1. Once you substitute them in, all you have to do is isolate the y and make sure everything is distributed and simplified. In this formula over here, it's a bit more difficult because once we plug in y, m, and x, we have to solve for b, and then we have to rewrite this equation and only substitute m and b in so that we can have the equation of the line. I'm going to start off by doing the point-slope formula because it has everything we need, and all we have to do is isolate this y, which works really well. So here we see when we substitute in the values, we get y minus 2. Again, I'm using parentheses to do all my substitutions. The slope is 1. And here we have x minus a negative 2. Now again, we're going to see the signs change in here. And this 2 here will become a negative 2 because it's positive. So here we'll have y minus 2 equals 1x plus 2. Now there's a couple things left to do. We have to distribute this 1 into both of these terms in the parentheses. And finally, we're going to move this using transposition to the other side of the equation so that we can isolate this y term. So here we have y minus 2 equals 1x plus 2. Now I know this is just 1x, but we can just write x or 1x. I like to leave the 1 there just because. Now the next step is we have to get rid of that 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 to both sides. This is called transposition. We do this so that we can isolate the y term. Whatever the value is here, we're just going to use the opposite sign and the same number and do it to both sides so that the equation remains balanced. This helps cancel this out to 0, and there's no more constant terms on the left side. and all we have here is y, and this equals 1x plus 4. And there we have the equation of the line. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it with the y equals mx plus b formula as well. So if you were to use this formula, it's a couple more steps, but it's just as simple. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to substitute for y, m, and x. Again, m is 1, and y and x are negative 2 and 2, not correspondingly. X is negative 2, y is 2. So let's go ahead and do our substitutions here. We have 2, m is 1, x is negative 2, and we're adding it with b. Now, we're trying to solve for this b term so that we can see what the intercept is. This is the y-intercept, and this is our slope. In slope-intercept form, we have both a slope and a y-intercept in our formula represented, which makes it very useful to understand what's happening with the graph. However, let's go ahead and solve this so that we can see what the y-intercept will be. So here we have 2, and here we have 1 times negative 2, which is negative 2 plus b. Now to solve for b, we simply have to move this negative 2 over so we can isolate the b term. So, to move it over, we're going to add 2 to both sides. This helps transpose the negative 2 over to the other side and helps us isolate this b term. So on the left side we have 4, and on the right side we have simply b. This is our b, and remember m was just 1. We're going to go right back into the formula y equals mx plus b and substitute for both m and b with the values that we have, and that will give us our slope-intercept form. So our m is 1, here's x plus b, and b is just simply 4. And there you have it. Same equation, same solution.